friends, family, and internet strangers. Stephanie here, and today I've got some easy game day appetizers for you. Football season is coming to an end, and that means time for the Super Bowl. Now, for me, I'm not a sports person. I grew up with a dad who was a hardcore Giants fan, and I would just hear the football in the other room. I didn't necessarily need to watch it, but when there was food involved, that was the way to get me around the game. And the Super Bowl is the perfect occasion to have lots of yummy, yummy food. Let's get into some appetizers.
First up is going to be some little Smokies and some pigs in a blanket 3 different ways. I had never made little Smokies in the Crockpot before, so I decided when I saw these on sale at Aldi that this was finally going to be the year that I tried them. I had just a little bit of barbecue sauce left from when I made spare ribs a while back, and I needed to finish that up, so I did not use measurements. I also did not even use an entire full package, even though the recipe I was looking at called for 2 packages of these. I was just cooking for myself. I was not actually hosting a party. So if you are going to be watching the game by yourself, here are some great ways to make small amounts of appetizers. So I set aside some of the little Smokies to use for pigs in a blanket and then put the rest in here. I did just a few little squirts of ketchup along with the barbecue sauce that I had left in my package of barbecue sauce. Just two little drizzles of Worcestershire sauce, and then some garlic powder and some onion powder. If you are looking to make a lot of this and to use an exact recipe, I do have the one that I was basing this off of linked in the description box down below for you if you are one who needs specific measurements, but I just eyeballed it and it turned out absolutely fine. These were delicious. I let them go on low for about 2 to 3 hours because they didn't need to really get to a certain temperature. They just needed to be warmed through and get all of that goodness with the sauce, and they were very tasty. So with the rest of my little Smokies and even some of those, I am using Crescent dough to make some pigs in a blanket, a classic crowd pleaser at any function. Anytime you've got a crowd coming over, who doesn't love pigs in a blanket? Unless they're vegetarian, right? So I am starting out with traditional ones. I've got generic Aldi brand Crescent dough. I used a pizza cutter to cut it into smaller pieces so it didn't overpower the hot dog, and then just roll it up. I'm also doing a cheese version, is the second version. I am taking plain old generic Aldi version of the Kraft singles, and I am cutting those up into strips that are a similar size to the strips of Crescent dough that I have, and then I'm just going to lay that out over the top of my Crescent dough and roll up my little mini hot dogs, mini sausages there. You could use, if you don't have these little smoky ones, you could cut up hot dogs and it will work the same way, or you can sometimes buy, depending on where you are, you can buy mini hot dogs and use those as well. Any of them will suffice. So then my last way of doing these, I am taking the little Smokies that I made in the crock pot and making a little barbecue version of a pigs in a blanket by simply taking those straight out of the crock pot, rolling them up, and those were so delicious. They had such a great flavor. I loved the combination of the barbecue sauce and the crescent roll. You really didn't need to dip it in anything. And for these, I just cooked them until the crescents were cooked through. You can see that cheese oozing out just a little bit, but not too much because it had been cut down to that perfect size. These also freeze and reheat really well. Because I was only having these by myself and it was a lot of them, I wasn't sure if I was going to want leftovers the next day, so I froze some, and then when I wanted to reheat them, I reheated them in the air fryer, and that worked perfectly. Next up is some very simple baked brie. You can find brie on sale at Aldi right now. I've noticed the past several weeks it has been on sale, and it is so simple. You put it in a baking dish. you add a topping to it. I had this maple bacon onion jam that I had picked up at the at-home store, but I've also seen this at the grocery store. I put a little bit of that on top. I put this in the oven just like this for about 20 minutes at 375, and that was just to get that inside nice and melty. I served this with some little crostinis, some crackers, and the leftover crescents that didn't get turned into pigs in a blanket. I served all of these together, and look at how melty that cheese is. That brie was so good, and this made for a really good, not only appetizers for a party, but just a snacky type of dinner where you just want appetizers for dinner, or like a movie night. These work really well for that too. Next up, I've got more appetizers that I had made for Christmas. However, they also work really well for game day, so I saved some of them for this video. I've got some veggie pizza, some buffalo chicken quesadillas, chips and dip, our standard chips and dip, and my mom also put out some shrimp for this particular event. And I have shown some of this on my channel before, and I will link it down below because my little Crescent bites were so good and they would definitely work well. Next up though, I am going to show y'all this veggie pizza. So this is a cold Crescent veggie pizza that I had seen on Megan's channel over at Megan's Kitchen. She's shown it a few different times on her channel, and it's very simple. The sauce on it is cream cheese, sour cream, and a packet of ranch dip. And I used a mixer to do this, which did make it kind of loose, but it was still really good. You could also mix this by hand. And then the dough, you can use either crescent rolls laid out and the edges pushed together, or I used 2 of the crescent dough sheets and put those together since I did make a full batch of this. And then I add my veggies on top, and you can customize which veggies it is that you want. So I did cucumbers, bell peppers, both red and green. Since it was Christmas, I was feeling festive. You could also put carrots on this. You could put tomatoes if you like tomatoes, but I'm not a big raw tomato fan. And then I added broccoli on top and then cheese and pushed everything down into this and cut it up. I do have a cousin who's a vegetarian. That is why I made this particular one on this day. And that cousin watches all of my videos, even though I very rarely make vegetarian food. So thank you. And then I've got some buffalo chicken quesadillas in here as well. So these I started out in the crock pot with a very large chicken breast. They sell these at the fresh market, and I don't have the fresh market near me. So when I'm home, I love being able to take advantage of it. They are on sale on Tuesdays. So if you have a fresh market near you, keep an eye out for the chicken deals on Tuesdays, and they're so good. So I simply did chicken and buffalo sauce and just cooked those 2 ingredients together until the chicken was fully cooked. Then I pulled the chicken out, shredded it. You could also shred it right in the crock pot, but I was using something to shred it that I did not want to go scratching up all the enamel on the crock pot. Then I added to it a little bit more buffalo sauce and then some of this queso cheese. You could use whatever cheese you have on hand or whatever cheese you like to accompany a buffalo style chicken. And then I put the lid back on this, let it melt up. And then once I was almost ready to use this, I realized I had a little bit of cream cheese left from a different recipe. So I didn't follow a recipe for this. This was all winging it. And I just put that little tiny bit of a cream cheese block that I had left in there. And then once this was all melted in together, I took my taco shells. I just used flour tortillas to do my quesadillas. I spread out my chicken mixture from the crock pot. And then on top of this, I did 2 different types of cheese. I did the queso cheese. I used what was left of that. And then I also added on top of that some Mexican blend cheese that I had in the refrigerator and folded those over. Put these in a pan, cooked it on each side until the cheese was melty and it was nice and brown. And these were so good. You could also just use that chicken mixture as a dip. I served it with blue cheese, and that was the thing people kept commenting on about what I made that night was everyone loved those buffalo chicken quesadillas.
Thanks so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and if you did, I hope you'll give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down below, and leave me a comment. Let me know what is your favorite thing to eat during a sporting event of any kind, but particularly, what are you hoping to see at a Super Bowl party this year?